Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beauty School Bobbi podcast. Today I am actually on a road trip and I won't be able to record tomorrow. So I'm going to bring you all along with me as I drive to Asheville. Just figured since I had some time in the car, I would record on my way and just kind of see what happens. So I am going to Asheville, North Carolina to attend a L'Oreal Mid-Atlantic School Conference. And this is the first time that we have ever attended one of these conferences. And because we are a Redken Premier School and that we work with L'Oreal PPD, I'm excited to meet other schools in our area. My bestie, Summer from Charlotte, who owns the Paramount Institute, is going to be coming along with us. So they're a new beauty school, and so it's going to be really fun to kind of see the different needs that they have and to just kind of catch up and hear about how the school is going. So I'm really excited. Tonight we are going to do dinner together. So I get to sneak in a little bit of friend time while I get work time at the same time. So I'm really, really excited to see her. When I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about on this episode, I was kind of reflecting and talking with Mark about what we should do or what I should talk about, because it's super weird to just sit in a car and talk. And so I was kind of thinking that one thing that has been on my mind recently and something that I've kind of just been marinating on and wanting to share and talk about was kind of a look back at, after being in this career and having this, same job for the last 13 years. I wanted to kind of look back and talk about my time at TSB and just how things have changed since I've been there. And I thought it would be kind of fun to just advice for my younger self or for people that are just starting their careers. I know a lot of the people that I work with, or a lot of people listening, are people that are new in their career. And I was thinking, maybe some advice for starting that would be good. So I'm going to kind of do a little bit of that, and then we'll just see where it goes. I don't even know if we're going to post this episode or if I'm going to watch this and it's going to be too much. But since I had time, I thought we should record and do an episode. So here we go. Now we're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our partners. If you're a beauty school owner or educator listening right now, I want to share something we actually use inside of our school, Beautista. Placement tracking has become one of the hardest parts of running a school. Between spreadsheets, emails, binders, and chasing down employment updates, it can get overwhelming fast. And on top of that, marketing your school and showing real student outcome matters more than ever. That's why we implemented Beautista. Beautista is a portfolio-first career platform built specifically for the beauty industry. Instead of graduating with just a resume, our students build professional digital portfolios that salons can discover and hire from. Beautista supports over 130,000 plus beauty professionals and partners with schools across the country. At the same time, it helps us modernize placement tracking and keep career outcomes organized and in one place. It's not just a hiring tool, it's a marketing tool. When prospective students can see real portfolios, real engagement, and real career momentum, that changes the enrollment conversation. And beyond placement, Beautista hosts over 1,200 live free classes and mentorship experiences just this year with top educators and brands, so students keep growing, building confidence, and staying connected long after graduation. If you want to modernize placement, elevate your student marketing, and give your graduates a real competitive edge, head to Beautista.com and check it out today. Now back to the show. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, kind of like a short version of my story is that I started working at Tennessee School of Beauty 13 years ago. So already very much an established beauty school. So I came into something that was really just already built. I started working at the beauty school to do admissions, and I full blown fell in love with it just right away. I went full speed ahead into the job and just dove in. And I am definitely someone who's a bit of an overachiever. And so when I dove into it, I came in and really just tried to, for the first few months, just get an idea of what beauty school is. I didn't go to beauty school, so I learned definitely from the business side, but because we are so involved in the school, I was able to really just observe and be in classes and be with the students. Obviously learning admissions in the beginning of, what we say to parents and how we talk to students and all of those things. But a lot of what I was doing in the beginning was definitely finding new ways to do things. So again, coming into a business that had already been there for so long, things were already pretty much set. But because of my role of being so involved with the students, I was able to kind of listen to their needs and to see ways that we could get better, ways that we could fine tune. Still the things that I'm doing every single day. I came in when other corporate schools had come into the area. So a lot of the beginning was going to career fairs, building the relationships with the high school teachers, and just really absorbing all of it. Everyone at Tennessee School of Beauty is such a little family. So it really was easy to, I think, adapt and just become a part of that family. From the instructors to the admin, we're a small unit. So it was easy to really get an understanding of how everything worked. But because this was a time where admissions had kind of just been done one way forever, there was still room for me to find new ways to do things. And I think that in the beginning, there, wasn't a ton of resistance. But just, again, doing things in a different way. So I feel like in the early part of my career, I really just took on the responsibility of the student experience from the beginning. When I was meeting with people and signing them up, I felt a huge responsibility to make sure that their experience was the best experience that it could be. I think it was interesting and maybe a little bit of a different experience than some other people that have come into the school, that I wasn't a part of Tennessee School of Beauty before. So I didn't have this idea of how things just should be done. And I really brought in a lot of things from other industries, other fields that I had worked in, and I'm like, hey, why can't this work in the beauty school experience? I think I really remember not understanding fully why somebody, a parent or family members, would be against their children coming into beauty school. I didn't realize that was going to be a challenge, but I quickly realized that it was. I quickly realized just the misconceptions of the beauty industry. And because I had bought in so hard to what I was doing and I believed so much in what we were doing, I was offended. I was really why would anybody not want their child to do this? Why would anybody not be for this? Because I had started meeting stylists and salon owners. My eyes were open to a whole new world. And I think that luckily, because I was in Knoxville and with Tennessee School of Beauty, I was able to make connections really quickly. But because I was thinking outside the box and wanting to do just really big things from the beginning, my circle grew really quickly. And I think everyone was just so warm and welcoming, that I was really like within the first year or two, I remember being like, oh yeah, I'm a part of this. I'm a part of this world, and I know the people, I know the players in the game, and I was watching students that I had enrolled graduate. I obviously fell in love with that piece of it, and then when I had students that I had enrolled start coming back to the school and like, hey, this is where I'm working and look at what I'm doing. There's certain people, certain students that I remember really being like, wow, they've grown so much and look at where they are now. And I just clung to that. And I wanted every story and every student, to be a success story. I really wanted to strive for perfection in those beginning years. We were much smaller when I started as far as student enrollment went. Like I said, there were other options of beauty schools at the time, and it was a time where those schools were new. So when we were going into high school classrooms, it definitely wasn't just like assumed that they were going to come to Tennessee School of Beauty. So I really started being like, how do we separate ourselves? What's different about us than the other schools? What are our strengths? And I didn't really identify that that's what I was doing at the time, but I can look back now and see that I really, really just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that Tennessee School of Beauty was going to be the best school to go to. It was going to be the best option, all while figuring out this whole new world of the beauty industry. And I look back so fondly on those beginning years of us being smaller. We have grown not only like square footage wise, but just as a company so much in the last 13 years. It started to become that, I was being put into positions to be like the face of the school. As Adam and George, who were the owners, and Adam is still, fourth generation owner of the school. Where they were, had been doing this for a long time. And I think that I just kind of changed the perception of the school of being like, oh yeah, that's just, the local school, and that's, where my mom went or where my grandma went, to like, oh, there's big things happening at that school. And we just grew and grew, and enrollment has grown every single year, since then. So I can look back and it like feels very quick. It feels like there's no way I've been there for that long. There's no way that I've been doing this tour, the same tour, that I learned when I started working there. I mean, we've obviously, edited some things here and there, but I'm basically still doing the same job. Just responsibilities have changed throughout the years as positions have changed, and our staff has like doubled in size since I've been there. And I'm so thankful for the place that we have gotten to with our staff. And now people are on the staff that I enrolled in beauty school, and when they come back and want to work with us, it's just the biggest compliment. I love it so much, and I'm so thankful for where the team is. But I think one of the things that's hard to think about, or is like a challenge sometimes to think about, is that I was so young when I started working there. I was 25, and I feel like just such a baby in my career. I remember wanting everything to happen really quickly. I remember wanting to feel like, and Adam has always said this too, is that from the day that I started, I really always made decisions and choices for the school. Obviously, I didn't have a huge say in things when I was just starting, because that wasn't, what I was hired for. It took a few years until I was, comfortable enough or confident enough to go to Adam and make suggestions about the way that I think things should be in the classrooms. I think the fine tuning really came from, making sure that this education
was where it needed to be. And I think we level up every education every single year. Like it's crazy all the things that we've added in. And I think another thing I want to make sure I don't forget to point out is that the beauty industry as a whole exploded over the last 13 years. So where when I came in, it was that not a lot of people were supportive of this. I don't hear as often as I used to that people are, putting the industry down, because over the last 13 years there has been such a shift. And through TikTok, and I mean the Ulta beauty, like Ulta didn't exist yet when I started. And I think those big corporations being so popular, makeup exploding from the time that I went there, and the cost of services going up so much. There's just a lot of things that have lined up in this particular time that I know are pieces of the success, and have also changed in the industry while I've been in the beauty industry. So it's interesting to look back and to see those changes. And I'm always reminded of how long I've been at the school when I have graduates come back or message me on Instagram or something and be like, yeah, it's been 6 years since I graduated. And I'm like, in my eyes, it feels like 2 seconds ago. Or even Ashland, who does my hair, like when we talk about it being, how long it's been since she's been out of school, or how long I've been going to see her, because Ashlyn started doing my hair when she was in beauty school, and then I followed her, to the salon, and I've been there ever since. And even with her, when we talk about it, I'm like, the years are just flying. But one of the things that I think about, what would I do differently, or what do I wish that I would have known? And it's that I wish that I would have known that I didn't, need to go so hard. I didn't need to make it my life. But it's hard to know whether that's the reason that we've been so successful, is because I did go so hard. I mean, I remember feeling like every text message that I got, or every email that I got, needed to be responded to immediately. And now I feel like I've had to train myself to not respond right away, or not make, as Aaron Silver said in the last episode, not make every emergency an emergency for me. I think that it's hard to kind of like explain the reasoning behind that, except that I had always known that what I was going to do in the world, or the thing that I wanted to dedicate my career to, was going to be to helping people. And when you are in a position where your role, or you feel like the responsibility of helping people, is all completely on you, it takes a toll on you mentally. I also want to note that this was the season and the time of girl bossing. And with my particular situation, having a mom that was very successful in a corporate banking world, I knew that my career was going to be really important to me, and that it was maybe okay to prioritize my career over things like the conversation about balance of family life and career life wasn't really happening at the time that I started having to have a family. I started at Tennessee School of Beauty the week that I got back from my honeymoon, so it was like I was starting my life as an adult at the same time that I was starting my career. And those two things lining up for me, I think, I was really in a place where I was ready to find success. I was ready to chase the dream that I'd had. The jobs before that I'd had weren't, really for me. And I'd went to college to be a high school English teacher, as I've talked about before on the show. And that wasn't the route that I took. So I think that once I got into Tennessee School of Beauty and I figured out, like, okay, this is what I meant to do. I'm going to be able to help people. I'm going to be able to make a difference. When I started hearing everyone's stories that I was meeting with, like, I wholeheartedly remember being like, this is my priority now. And through a lot of seasons over the last 13 years, my priorities haven't always been in check, but I also have talked to, other women that are my same age, and or even, people that are my mom's age, and the idea or conversation again about priorities just wasn't always there. It was okay to grind. You were supposed to grind. You were supposed to push. Like, again, the girl boss era was happening while I was becoming a girl boss, while I was, gaining more responsibilities and leadership and moving up in a company. And so I wish that I didn't always prioritize it as much, but I think that it's kind of just one of those things that I think a lot of people or women would say that it didn't always need to be the main priority. But for me, it very much was. I lived and breathed my job. Again, I wanted to respond to every email. I thought that every time a parent had a question, I needed to answer it immediately, or it would reflect poorly on the business or poorly on the school. And the last thing that I wanted was to ever do anything that reflected poorly on the school, because everything was about making TSB look and feel and be as good and close to perfection as I wanted it to be. So a year after I started working there, I had my son, and I remember being so worried and so scared about what that was going to do to my career. Was I going to be able to balance being a mom and working? And for me, it was like work was going to be the priority, and how are we going to make being parents work with my job, because my job was so important, and no one else in the world was putting that pressure on it except for me. I was the only one that was like, make this a priority. Nobody else was pushing me to do that. Like, nobody at the school expected me to do that. I just did. Both of my parents were very, very hard workers, and the career was priority. And I think that I just thought that that's how it was supposed to look. I thought that that's how it was supposed to be. And not that any of this is wrong, but it's hard to sometimes look back and be like, did I go back to work too soon? Did I even consider, staying home? Did I even consider, being a stay-at-home mom? I always knew that that wasn't going to be the path for me, but, was jumping back in after 6 weeks gonna be the right decision? And Mark has always just been so supportive, because the job made me so happy, and because I was able to help people. We were just, TSB was just like a third piece of our family, or the next thing, in line with our family, and it was just a part of our world. So work didn't pull me away on trips a lot. I didn't need to be gone. I was home every night, but we definitely juggled a lot in the beginning with Will. Luckily, Mark was working at a church in Knoxville at the time that had childcare. So when I went back to work, Will went with him. Then that role changed, and we were, I remember in the beginning how stressful childcare was. And, my parents were both still working, so we didn't have help or support here for any of that. If our kids were sick, we had to figure out which one of us were going to stay home. We had to figure out, what we were going to do when daycare was closed, what we were doing for summer. Like, I feel like it was a nonstop stress in my life, even up until, 4 years later when I had Finley. And I think a lot of the decision of me having another child was because of my career. Were we going to be able to fit another one into this? Was I going to be able to be pregnant again while I worked, being the only one with Finley doing admissions? Like, when I was pregnant with Finley, I was the only one doing admissions for, now we only have cosmetology and aesthetics, but at the time we had the massage school, we had nails, all of that. And we were growing a company and growing a business at the time that I was, literally growing children. And everyone was always so sweet at the school. And I remember days of doing tours and feeling sick and being like, I'll be right back. And I just didn't need to do that. I think if I would have just called off, it would have been fine. I put this so much pressure on myself, so much pressure on myself to show up and perform. And I think that's the thing that like makes me sad when I look back is I wish that I would have just given myself some grace. I wish that I would have been able to be like, it's not that important. You don't need to be there. If you're not there, it's okay. The appointments will reschedule and come in again. But I know I'm saying all of this because I know so many stylists that are starting their career, or beauty professionals starting their career. Honestly, if you just graduated from college and you're starting your career, there's so much pressure to, climb that ladder to make it to the top. I think what I didn't understand was that I had time to do that it didn't need to all be done all at once, and that it would be okay if I, gave myself some grace, if I left when I felt exhausted, or again, I had two young kids at home. And for me, I struggled with postpartum with both my kids. And so I think that maybe a lot of people feel this way, but those first years were so hard, because we were trying to fit a career into this. And then on top of that, my husband had his career too, that we were trying to navigate and figure out. And I think, if I could do it differently, I know that Adam and George would have allowed me more time to be gone if I needed it. And I wish maybe that I would have prioritized those things a little bit more. I think being a perfectionist also, it's hard for me to look back and not just think that if I could have done something different, that it would have been better. It's so easy to be like, oh yeah, like looking back now, like, oh, this is what I should have done. When in the moment you're operating on, adrenaline, and you're operating on, I never wanted to let anybody down. And I felt like if I didn't show up, I was going to be letting someone down. Something was going to happen at the school that I wouldn't be there to handle. And I still struggle with that. I still struggle with feeling responsible for everything, even though I'm not. And we have a very capable team. And especially now that Steven is there and we have Brooklyn, like everything will be okay if I'm not there. But I just put so much pressure on myself to take care of everything all the time. And I think that it was because the school was changing, and the school was changing because of things that I was pushing. And so if I wasn't there and everything fell apart, then it was going to be my fault. But it's not. And for how quickly time moves, I really, in a lot of aspects, tell the girls to slow down. That you can still climb the ladder, you can still become successful, you can still find happiness in your career without having to operate over the top all the time. And it's just been within the last few years that I've even realized that I didn't need to operate the way that I was pushing myself to operate, that we're a beauty school and it's just not that serious. It's not that big of a deal. If you have to be out, you're out. If you have to call off, you call off. Because for me, in the way that I operate, like I said, I'm never gonna just call off because I just don't want to go in that day. Like I would have to be like super, super sick. But taking the time to take the vacations and to slowly learn, I think that my advice, or I guess what I'm getting at with all of this rambling, is that I want the girls in their 20s, or the students, or whoever is, listening, whatever path you're on, to understand that you can slow down, that you don't have to run so fast. If that's a feeling that you're feeling, the rush, like I just need to get through beauty school, I just need to get through. You don't have to operate or live in that world. To take the time to stop and enjoy the moment that you're in. I have a note on my mirror right now that says be in the blessings. Because now that my kids are getting older and growing so quickly, I just don't want to miss it. I don't want to constantly be thinking about the next thing, or what's tomorrow going to bring, what do I have going on tomorrow, or what thing is not going right at the school right now that I need to turn my attention to and focus on. Now I want to be in it. Now I want to enjoy the good, and I want to be in the good without, wishing it away to go on to the next thing. I even see it a lot in the students that are, getting engaged and getting married and wanting to find the one. And I always am just like, just slow down. There's not a rush to get to that spot, to live in life for a little bit. And I think that we all have different reasons for doing that.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hey, beauty students and educators. I'm excited to share that Beauty School Bobbi is now supported by BeautyCast Network, your go-to career services and placement platform for the beauty industry. Free to schools, educators, and students, BeautyCast Network connects you with top artists, influencers, and educators who inspire and empower the next generation of pros. From webinars and newsletters to virtual career showcases, competitions, and scholarship pop-ups, the platform is packed with tools to build non-technical skills, encourage career readiness, and help students launch amazing careers as they approach their graduation date. Learn more at beautycastnetwork.com to help your students thrive and take their career to the next level. Now back to the episode.
I was telling Will the other day that when I went to college, my parents helped me pay for some of it. It was kind of for me, I went to college at a time, and I've talked to a lot of people that had the same experience, but I went to college at a time where our parents were just like, you just go. Like, we're not talking about other options or what do you want to do in college? You're going to college, so what do you want to do? And I had never identified it. I never really knew. I knew that leadership was probably something that I wanted to be in, or maybe, wanting to be the boss or wanting to build a business. I had all those things, but I never really knew exactly what I wanted to look like. So I was kind of telling Will and talking to him about how, when we moved to Knoxville, we had $0. And that was, 2 years after I had dropped out of college. And that was a messy path, and it was still my path, and I don't wish it to be any different. But, we've built all of these things that we have completely on our own. I think we had the safety net of my parents that they weren't going to let us go hungry, and they weren't going to let us fall too far, but it was very much we were on our own, especially after college didn't work out. I mean, we didn't get money for food or whatever. They helped us with our housing and helped us with tuition, but it was student loans, for the rest of it. And so everything was up to us to figure out. And I don't necessarily think that that's the wrong way, but I see a lot of students now that have a very big safety net, that have a safety net of like their parents paying for their car and their parents paying for their phone still and insurance and all of those things. And it's great. And I am interested to see how we will be with our kids, and what rules or restrictions or whatever we will set, when our kids are at this point in life. But we were on our own, which makes me so proud, because when I look at where we are now, only, again, 13 years into a career is long, but it's not the end. We're still, I didn't want to say the middle. Like, I feel like some days I feel like we're just still starting. We're figuring it out. Like, we're just now getting comfy. We're getting our footing a little bit. And so I'm proud of that. I'm super, super proud of that. So I'm not, angry at my parents for not giving us everything or handing us just money all the time, or setting us up with a safety net. I think the safety net was, we moved in with my parents twice after we moved to Knoxville, and one time with a kid, while we were buying our first house. And so we had that support, but it was very much up to us to figure out our own way. So like I said, I'm proud of that, and I'm happy that was the situation we had, because I know that what we have is because of how hard we've worked, and what we built. And maybe I do have all of that because I grinded so hard. So it's hard to find that balance of happiness of what is the right way to do it, because I think all of our stories just look so different. I think that I was extremely lucky to land at Tennessee School of Beauty and land at a place that was going to give me so many opportunities to grow and was going to continue to invest in me. When the school was growing, I was rewarded for that. And I think that again is the blessing. And when I say I know that this was where I was meant to be, I think it was because of that, because my hard work was rewarded. I wasn't working at a corporate job where it didn't matter how hard I worked or how much I succeeded, that I was still gonna just kind of be at the same place. I was at a place that did reward that and did allow me to make changes and to, you know, get through so many different challenges. I had no idea that I would end up here, but because it still feels like I'm so thankful for it still. And I'm so thankful to have built what we built, and to be a part of this growth and to be a part of such a legacy. But it doesn't come without a trade-off. You know, I think with every really good thing, you know, the negative is that I have a hard time looking back to my kids being young, because it was so stressful, because the priorities were off balance, that it's hard sometimes to look back and be like, did I miss it? Should I have taken a year off or 2 years off to be home with them? I guess there's just never, like, you'll just never know. We'll never know what the right answer is. But I know that my kids are both really great kids. And so I know that we didn't, you know, mess them up too much by being gone. And I've said this before on the show, but my therapist, when I finally entered therapy, when I was like, I can't juggle all of this. I can't juggle, you know, as my kids got older and needed more, or needed me in a different way, it was hard to juggle everything. I remember when the kids were really little, coming home, picking them up from daycare, or if Mark picked the kids up from daycare, meeting back at the house. And it was like, by the time we made dinner and got baths, it was bedtime, because when they're little, they go to bed so early. And so I felt like I would miss so many things throughout the week. And it was destroying me without me being able to identify what was so hard. I was just like, felt like I was missing it. But I also felt like, well, the school needs me. You know, the students at the school need me. And I just prioritized that so highly, that balance was off. And I remember when I started going to therapy and my therapist telling me that, like, it is okay that I'm showing them that that a career does matter. It can't matter more than them. It will mess them up if they feel like I'm choosing work over them all the time. But like I said, I was home every night. I didn't have a job where I had to travel all the time. So I was still there, but, working from home. And on my off days, making sure that I was still available to respond to emails and check emails and all of that stuff. It'll be interesting to see when they get older and they look back, if they remember any of this, if they, if their perception is that I was working all the time, or if their perception was that there was balance. But I'm able to talk to Will kind of about it now. And as Steven is involved more in the business, I'm able to, to step away more. I think it didn't help that I, started the podcast and YouTube show and just had this drive to make such a difference and impact in the beauty industry, that I was like, let's go. I was ready for everything. Is there a world in which I had kids like later in life? I mean, it's and had my career and then was able to I run this stuff through my head all the time. And I think a lot of moms do. I don't really hear a lot of men talking about it. I think it's more accepted that, like, the dad is gone traveling all the time and all of those things. Every family responsibility looks different, but I don't really hear a lot of men being like, oh, I regret not being there so much when they were little, because I feel like it was just more accepted that men, could have their careers and prioritize that. I think as women, we still battle the guilt. Like, even driving right now, leaving Finley just to go away for a night, Will, I think, is at an age where he's like fine with it. He doesn't really care. He's like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. But, Finley's still sad, and that destroys me that I'm going to miss one bedtime, that I'm going to miss one thing. I've always had a really hard time of separating that. I've always wanted to be there for every meal, every game, every birthday party. And it's just not possible with, having such a full, demanding career. I don't know if it's just this age or if that my kids are just now old enough that I'm able to look back and reflect on all of these things now, but it is definitely something that I think about a lot. And I know that it doesn't do any good to look back and wonder or try to say, like, what if I would have done this or what if I would have done that? But I think just with me being a perfectionist, it's something that I do a lot, because I think it also helps me to make sure that I'm in check and in line now. I think I'm finally at a place where there is balance and I'm able to step away. I wish that I could say I didn't feel guilty and I didn't feel guilt at all still, but I do, because even if I'm like, hey, I'm taking off of work today to go to a field trip, like, I didn't do that. I don't remember how old Will was when I went to his first field trip, but I was like, oh, I can't sign up to be the field trip mom because, I would have to leave work and then I can't take appointments. And if we can't take appointments, then students can't enroll. But because it's not like that now, when I do go do those things, I definitely still feel guilty sometimes. I definitely still feel like that's not something I should be doing. Okay, I'm like dying because I looked in my rearview mirror for a second and there was like a cop right behind me and I got really scared that I was going to get in trouble or pulled over for filming. So sorry about that pause. Sorry about stopping like mid conversation. I don't even know, is it illegal to record? Is this illegal to do? Like, I actually don't even know. I'm not using my phone. I'm just talking. So hopefully this is okay. But I am being safe. I'm not touching or using my phone, so I think we're good. But anyways, all to say that at this point, I think that, if I could do it all over again, the same path, knowing where I would get, knowing that I could still get to this exact same place without, being so addicted to my email, without being so addicted to making sure that I didn't ever leave the office with any voicemails or any work. That was one thing that I had to change. Was I needed to learn what needed my attention right away and what didn't. But I think that one of the things I've thought about recently too is I've built like a community of people that, do have the same expectations of themselves that I have for myself. Is that I think I'm definitely not the only one that experienced this. And I think now the priority is really where I wish that I would have put some balance, or I would have put some emphasis on. I wish I would have really been able to separate things a little bit more. Now I try not to be on my phone as much, but also the whole conversation of like phone addiction is new too. So I just didn't have anyone else around me at the time that I could even talk to about any of this stuff. Like, the people that I worked with, either, weren't wanting to achieve greatness, or they were just kind of happy with where we were. They certainly weren't adding in whole other businesses. I mean, Beauty School Bobbi was, something that I added in, but also like Steven and I opened a coffee shop in a boutique at the school. Like, why did we need to add extra things in? Like, I just wasn't connected with people that were doing that. And now that I am, it's so validating, and I'm able to get help and feedback from people because I have a community now. I have people that are where I'm at or are chasing, similar things that I'm chasing. So it's easier to talk about. But I do feel sad about, me from 10 years ago not having that yet, not having that community yet, because I think it could have been really helpful for me. I think that I really was only hurting myself in all of this, um, which I hate to be like, so that's fine. But I think the effects were really just on myself. I think that I pushed so hard for so long that burnout was something that I battled for years, and it became a joke with the people I worked with, that like a breakdown would come in our busy season, or a breakdown would be coming at some point. Um and I've avoided it. I've avoided it without, quitting or walking away, but not without days that I've cried a lot, or, really hard times. So I think it's okay that I was operating that way, but I think it's just so much healthier now. So the advice to the younger people listening is just to slow down and make sure that even though you're building something great, it doesn't have to be the absolute most important thing in your life. When I look back, I also feel like I didn't clearly process like a lot of the things that were happening, like, getting married, having babies, all the things. Like, we just did it. It just had, like, we were just like, oh, this is just what you do next. And I think the generation below me does a much better job of being like, when do I want to have kids? When do I want to get married? When does this fit into my life? And I don't think that a lot of the people my age necessarily did that. It was like, you meet the person you're going to marry, and so you get married, and after you get married you have kids, and all of those things. And I wish that we would have had more conversations about when and all of that. But if we would have done that, I wouldn't have Will and Finley. So I'm thankful for, obviously, the way that everything worked out. But I am definitely in a season of reflection, and in a season of knowing that, what I want the next 13 years to look like, and the ways that they will look, the next 13 years will look different. And so as I'm thinking all of that, I just wanted to share those things, and I guess share maybe a little bit about my story a little bit more, because I don't really share those things very often, or maybe the things that weren't perfect while I was going through them. But I also think that I'm the kind of person that when I'm going through something anyways, I'm not always vocal about it, or I don't always process it out loud. And I'm working on that too. So I just think that as much as you want to be successful, as much as you want to get to the point in your life where you're not stressed about money anymore, or whatever the goal is for you, whether it's opening a business, or if it's, chasing your dream, it needs to be a big part of your life. It's going to be a part of your life because of how much time we spend at work. But I think making sure that you're mixing in the balance, and that you're really taking the time to see what's going to be best for you to show up in all ways. Like, I want to be the best mom, the best wife, the best at my job. I want all of those things. And I could have done that in a way that was maybe less hard, that was maybe less stressful. I am at a point now, though, where, because I ran so hard for so long, I think I'm at a point where, pumping the brakes, or understanding that I can put my phone away when I get home, that I don't need to necessarily be 100% available. If I'm playing in the yard with my kids, or we're playing ball, or whatever it is that we're doing, I don't need to have my phone on me in case there's something going on at the school. Those are the things that I wish I could change, and that I'm learning now are just better. I also just wonder if everything would have ended up this way if it wasn't like that. If I wouldn't have, done all of those things, life could look really different. So I think just making sure that you're living in the way that you can be proud of, and that you can say, like, I did it, and I did it well, and I wouldn't go back and change everything. Maybe that's not how life works at all. Maybe nobody in the world feels that way. But I think now, as we're learning to change, just making sure that you're doing it at a pace that you can keep up, that you're doing it at a pace that doesn't feel like such a grind all the time, you have to make sure that you're able to work. I tell the students all the time that are, working in salons as an assistant, but they also have another job because they're paying all their bills. It's not going to be like that forever. Eventually, it does pay off. Eventually, you get comfortable. But what I've learned also is for people that are high achievers, there's just never going to be a part where you're like, okay, I can stop now, I'm happy. And I don't want that at all. I don't want to wake up and not feel like I'm chasing something or I'm running towards something. I like that feeling also, but I do think adding I don't know if you want to call it balance, whatever you want to call it, just where there's more time where when you're on vacation, you can be on vacation. You don't have to feel like you have to work. And I still got to work on that too. We're getting there. These are all like small steps that are happening for a positive direction. But I think just taking the time to enjoy the moment that you're in and making sure that you're not killing yourself for the dream that you're chasing is going to be the best way to be able to look back and to be happy and proud and not wish that it would have been different. It's such a struggle though, because I have so many friends that are moms that are stay-at-home moms that, feel like they're losing their identity by being at home, that work was such a big part of their life. And now that that's gone, they lose their identity. So I don't think that there's a perfect answer for any woman. I think that we're going to be hard on ourselves, no matter what. But to grind is okay. And your 20s do feel chaotic and it feels like you're never getting ahead. But I know that in time, it just does get easier. So I don't know, that felt all like a big rant. And like I said, hopefully we post this and that wasn't just all wasted time. But I hope that you all enjoyed a more honest episode. It just started snowing and I'm about to go through the mountains, so I want to stop recording so that I can pay attention. But I hope you all enjoyed this episode. DM me and let me know what you thought of it, or comment down below if it's not so personal to your experience, but share kind of if you resonate with any of this or if you feel like you identify with this. I really, really want to hear about it. So make sure that you do that. Make sure that you check us out. If you have not taken a moment yet to review or even leave a comment or leave a 5-star review on the podcast, do that. It would help so much as we're trying to grow this. But I hope you loved it. I can't wait to hear your feedback, and we will see you next time, guys. Bye.